Coloring Crypto.
This is part 2 on Hashgraph and IntivaHealth. So IntivaHealth is a client of ours. This is a paid spot, and it's a really fun episode though because we get to hear about this spring break crypto conference week where there were major events in the crypto world in Austin at South by Southwest, in New York with the Hashgraph announcement, and finally in Puerto Rico. So come along and enjoy this journey.
Hey, Gabe, how you doing?
Good. How's it going, John?
Good, Gabe. It's good to talk to you again.
I'm really excited to have you on. So this week it seems to be like the spring break crypto conference week, with major blockchain events happening in New York City, in Austin at South by Southwest, and in Puerto Rico. And you've been to all three of these. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. I'm feeling a bit like a rock star on tour. It's been insane. We've been from again Austin to New York, 24-hour turnaround from New York Times Square to Puerto Rico. It's been crazy. It's been a lot of fun and a little bit exhausting, but really enjoyable.
And so right now you're still in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm looking out the window right now at the beautiful Puerto Rican beach, wishing that I could actually be in my swimsuit instead of at a crypto conference. However, I'm glad to be here as well.
Okay, so should we start backwards and tell us about Puerto Rico, or should we start kind of at the beginning of your journey and with New York or South by Southwest?
Yeah, I think let's start with South by Southwest because it kind of tees up the path that was taken, and we started at Blockhouse.
What is Blockhouse?
Blockhouse is it was an event that was put on by the World Tokenomic Forum, which is run by Chris Snook, and it really brought together some serious stakeholders. Big players, a few small players, up-and-comers in the blockchain and ICO world.
So even just to back out a little bit, I've meant to go to South by Southwest for years, and I've never been. And tell us just a little bit, like walking. Had you been before?
Yes, I've been a couple of times. So we are from Austin, so we
Right.
have the luxury of actually being there, and it's a great event. It's grown dramatically, but what's really cool about it is it's authentically Austin, Texas, which is musicians, music capital of the world, and they really integrate live music, entertainment, technology in a format that I've never seen before, and it's a lot of fun. They make it a lot of fun. The venues are fun. That you meet really interesting people, and the level of access that you have to some of the greatest entrepreneurs and artists is great. You literally you could be standing next to some famous person, and they shake your hand and, hey, good to see you in Austin at South by. So it's a really neat event for that reason. Everybody kind of lets their hair down and has a good time.
And so I'm just going to guess, tell me if I'm wrong, but last year you weren't doing anything involving the blockchain or distributed ledger technology or anything like that. Is that right?
Yeah, last year we were actually just in the first steps of kind of vetting and looking for our partner. We had been researching and trying to understand the landscape and how we might be able to integrate it with Intiva. And so we were there just meeting people and learning and trying to understand who was who and what technology might work for us.
And I'm so curious because in the last year, so much has happened in this space with this technology and the new companies. How would you compare? How is it different this year than last year?
I think this year, what I'm seeing is an explosion of entrepreneurs who are connecting the dots and making the connections for how blockchain can be applied in every industry. the Ethereum platform and some of the other platforms out there have put the tools in place to build infrastructure. And now entrepreneurs from every walk of life, I'm meeting people from all over the globe, young, old, male, female, and they're coming up with ideas to leverage smart contracts, to do verification, to different types of cryptocurrencies and usage for them. So there's all these different ideas now that have percolated, and now the tools are in place to actually build these platforms, which is very exciting.
So was last year sort of more tech-focused people, and this year is almost more sort of mainstream industries in a sense?
Yes, I think last year people were getting their ideas ready, and they were really trying to understand how this thing was going to lay out and figure out who could develop and on what platform and which technology and which cryptocurrency, et cetera, et cetera. And this year, people are actually putting those plans into practice and actually getting them onto the market.
And for IntivaHealth, what was your sort of goal or expectation? What were you guys going for?
So originally, we were looking for a much higher level of security that's currently available right now. So we all know, we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast, which had to do with centralized storage systems. No matter how good they are, and no matter how much encryption is laid on there, they still have their vulnerabilities. And we knew that we had such high value information in our platform that we had to come up with a better solution. And we knew that blockchain was that, or at least was the direction we wanted to go in order to make our data as secure as possible. So that was really the impetus of us looking for blockchain solutions. And then we realized that with some other models that we had seen, that we could establish the instantaneous credential verification and potentially become the standard for what we call primary source verification. And so that was our motivation to, find a blockchain-based or decentralized ledger technology that we could actually utilize in our platform.
And how would you say, like, do you feel like, well, let's get back to that. I want to make sure we hear about your event in New York and also Puerto Rico. So you start in Austin, you're there, you're based there, and so you do South by Southwest, and then you head off to New York.
Yes. So it became fairly clear that Hashgraph was going to be making some big announcements. And we had planned a few shows, starting with South by Southwest. However, we did not know how big the Hashgraph announcement was going to be. And so when we got the call, they said, hey, we're doing a big thing, Times Square, PlayStation Theater, 2,000 people, we're live streaming it, and we're going to break some huge news. And so we had already planned to be in Puerto Rico at the time. And so I said, hey, we got to be there. And so we bought the tickets.
This is like last minute. Like how many days before you're in New York did you buy the ticket?
Yeah, it literally, like, I think it wasn't too bad. It was about a week out. And but what was wild about that was that I looked at the weather 2 days before we were leaving, and it was 70% chance of a snowstorm. And then I said to my wife, I really have no idea how I'm supposed to pack, because 1 minute I'm going to be in a blizzard, and then in 24 hours later I'm going to be on the beaches of Puerto Rico. So it was pretty exciting. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you don't get to do this very often like that.
Yeah, this is like one of those once in a lifetime kind of experiences of just like it is on. And so did you guys?
Was.
So what were you guys? Were you guys just kind of there in New York and just kind of being a part of that, or did you guys were you networking, or what were you doing for Intiva there?
Mance Harmon, CEO of it's called Hagera Hashgraph. It was Swirls, but now they call it Hagera Hashgraph. And Dr. Lehman Baird were going to be speaking, and we wanted to support them, and we also wanted to get together with some of our other partners, and we decided to go. We didn't know exactly what. They were being very tight-lipped about what the actual announcement was going to be. We knew, or we had a real sense that they were going to announce that they were going to do a public ledger, which, of course, allows for cryptocurrencies to be built on Hashgraph, which everybody has been asking about for months and months and months and months. So we knew that this was a big deal. However, we had no idea how big of a deal it was. And when we got there, we really realized that they had been keeping it real close to the vest. And we arrived, and we start seeing their whole new branding strategy, and we start seeing some very big players in the space showing up, and we start seeing some Wall Street people, and we start seeing some, regulation people, government people, and we start and on my team, we realized very quickly that this was a huge event. And then during the actual presentation, there were 2,000 people, and it was being streamed live by like 80,000, and it was clipping up. And I had the feeling, I'm imagining that when Google, announced their first big announcement saying everybody in the world will be using Google to search for everything here, and we will become one of the biggest global companies, and, that announcement, it felt like that announcement when we were at the Hashgraph event. It was electrifying. People were stoked. Everybody was geeking out, and we felt as though we were literally watching history being made. And I believe that may be the case.
This is great. This is like a great timestamp. We'll look back in 5 or 10 years, and be like, is it that Google event, or like Steve Jobs, with his iPhone 1, launch? Like, will it be that, or will Hashgraph, or the whole blockchain go the way of something else? So how does that public ledger, or does Hashgraph's announcement, does this impact you guys specifically, because you guys are an enterprise company using that licensing their software?
That's correct. So it impacts us in a couple of different ways. It allows for a token, an Intiva token, to be put onto Hashgraph. We will be releasing our initial token on ERC20. However, as soon as it's available, we will shift it over to Hashgraph and do a one-to-one burn. And so that allows us for a more seamless platform build out, and so that's exciting. And it also allows for a number of other technological things that we were grappling with, and we knew would be solved once a public ledger was available, including storage and speed and a number of other things. So there are some kind of technical things that the public ledger allows us to do that we were not able to do with a permissive ledger.
Well, I'll have to do some research on my end so I can even ask the right questions to unpack that, but we'll save that for a future conversation. So there it is, 24 hours in New York, and then off to Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
You are a rock star.
It really did get... Yeah, it really did get rock star too, because we got to go to this awesome party afterwards, and we were I think it was over the W and then the Knickerbocker, and just it was so neat. The people, so many smart people in such a small space in one place, and New York. I mean, it doesn't get much cooler than that. And then. So we partied until about 1:30 in the morning, went by and got some, New York style pizza on our walk back to the hotel. Yeah. And I had a 4 a.m. wake up call to get on a flight to Puerto Rico. So it was about, it was a little bit of a zombie day the next day, but I was able to catch some naps, and hey, I'm in, the tropics, which is pretty awesome. So
had you been to Puerto Rico before?
And I've never been to Puerto Rico. It's my first time.
So,
And it's a cool, what a neat place. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's everything you'd think about a beautiful tropical location. And as a matter of fact, they recovered well in Condado and downtown San Juan. You still see a lot of hurricane damage coming in, but and I understand the rural areas are still affected. But they say, hey, I felt a little guilty that we're going out there to go to a nice hotel, and they said, no, we need the tourism dollars, so please come out. So we're hoping to support them a little bit. But yeah, it's beautiful. Really, really enjoying it. And man, are we seeing some really interesting folks at this conference? I'm trying to think of some names, and I don't want to call anybody out, but there are a lot of Silicon Valley people here. There are international contingent of people. I mean, it's a much larger and more significant event than I thought it was going to be.
Did you we've all heard, there's an article in the New York Times about the sort of Puerto Rico, Puerto crypto, the community that's moving there for tax purposes and setting up their businesses there. Did you get a sense of, is that community really present with this event, or did you get a sense of what's going on with that?
I am seeing that. I mean, we even discussed what that might look like for us with Intiva. I don't think that's an option for us at this time, but I am seeing some of the individuals that I'm collecting cards from, for example, and saying, make connections with. I'm noticing that their addresses are here in Puerto Rico, which is really interesting. So there does seem to be a movement. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Back in the 80s, I think it was, that Puerto Rico did a similar kind of initiative with pharmaceutical companies, and they moved here in droves. And and so they had and it produced a lot of jobs and a lot of tax revenue, or maybe not tax revenue, because I think part of it was a free deal, but it generated a lot of revenue for state and local governments, and the pharmaceutical companies benefited greatly from that. And so this is a similar model, and I believe that it's a smart thing for them to do.
Wow! And so, how much longer are you in Puerto Rico?
So I'm actually get a little time to relax. My wife just flew in, and
awesome.
We are, so after tomorrow, we're going to have a few days just to relax in Puerto Rico and enjoy this place, which I'm really looking forward to. And so I'll be leaving back to Austin on the Monday, and then a few days later, we're heading to San Francisco for another conference.
The tour continues.
The tour continues, and I think it probably will until our token sale is over. So sometime in mid-May, I believe. So it'll, but it's fun. It really is. I do enjoy it, and I mean, you just get to meet so many interesting people. I can't emphasize that enough. It's a really interesting space right now.
In Austin to New York to Puerto Rico, did you see some familiar faces kind of at all? Were you alone in all three spaces, or were there other companies and people that were doing the same tour?
I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. So I've run into, at least 10, 15 people that I saw at South by, and then I saw there's about another 6, 7, 8 that were in New York, and so a lot of familiar faces, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of like the traveling circus or something. I don't know. So it's neat to see them. A lot of there's a lot of ICO hedge funds out here, and Silicon Valley guys and girls, and it's just really, really interesting, and it's a fairly small group. I mean, the stakeholders and the real players seem to all know each other, which is and we're just being introduced. So it's fun to get to know them.
So the tour continues. San Francisco's next, and then when you said you'll kind of be able to, well, you think you'll be relaxing when the token sale starts, but that'll probably be a whole other set of, probably be in Austin, but a lot of whole other busyness. But when is the token sale? When does it start?
The token pre-sale begins April 19th. and it will, I believe it will go for, the pre-sale will be 2 weeks, and then I believe the sale is 4 weeks. So I think it'll be a total of 6 weeks if we need them all. We think we may be, it's a very good possibility we could sell out in the pre-sale. We have a lot of interest that's being generated, so we're very excited about that. And so, yeah, I think we will sleep when, after the token sale has completed. I think that's when we will get to take a breather.
Oh man. And people that want to, are interested in finding out more about the token sale, they just go to IntivaHealth.com.
Yep, and they can find out our white papers there. We have 2 versions. We have a scientific version that is for those who are very technically minded and really want to get into the nuts and bolts. And we have more of a coffee table version that will be a little bit easier to digest for those who are not as technical or don't want to get into that much detail. And also too, our team, our support staff is there to answer any questions, and they're great, easy to talk to. So we welcome all comers. Come and talk to us and find out what we're doing. We appreciate it.
And so just a few more questions. I'm sure it's probably still a blur as you kind of get your sea legs grounded. But could you share what would you say was your personal highlight of this adventure?
So far, I have to say the Hashgraph event was pretty stellar. We were in the audience, and we knew that there was an opportunity that we may be mentioned as one of the early partners, but there was no promise of that. And so right in the middle of the presentation, after Dr. Baird got through with his part, Jordan of Hashgraph, he is their business development guy, and
Gotcha.
he's been our contact since the beginning. And he gave us a great 20-second spot, and we were one of only 4 or 5 companies that were mentioned, and we were just giddy when we saw our logo up there on the big screens, and he gave a great explanation of us. And so just that event, kind of being there, which, like I said, it felt like a historical moment, and being part of that, being part of the Hashgraph movement was really the highlight so far. That was a really neat experience and feeling to have.
Right on. Well, congratulations. That's really exciting. I'm really, really stoked for you guys. Is there anything else that you want to be sure we get to share with our listeners?
I think I want to just mention a little bit just that our vision, IntivaHealth is really about trying to make doctors' lives easier, and other licensed medical professionals' lives easier, and give them back some time. And what we really are working towards is, and what we hope is that time will equate to better patient care, and that we all as patients, as individuals, will be able to experience better care just by the fact that these physicians are being given back some time. And so ultimately that is the vision of IntivaHealth. And we don't want to ever lose sight of that, because that's really what we're doing it for.
I love it. I mean, it's like we talked about last time on the last podcast. Everybody in America would agree that healthcare needs help. People disagree in the how, but you guys have kind of isolated a sector that most people aren't aware of, that clearly is going to just have massive efficiencies benefited by what you guys are doing, it sounds like.
Yes, and we believe that it will significantly change the face of healthcare, because you've got to you got to help these doctors out administratively. They're just burdened by compliance and all of these things that these bureaucracies, and so we're really trying to help them cut through the red tape, and with that we hope that translates into just better practices and better care.
Well, awesome. I want to let you go so you can take some time and relax and enjoy your wife's company and go enjoy the beaches. I was in Puerto Rico probably 15 years ago, and we got to go out to the jungles, and it was a really, really fun thing. I don't know if you have time to do that, but yeah, man, you make sure you get some time to enjoy the beauty of Puerto Rico.
I really appreciate it, Gabe, and I'm enjoying it in the evenings. You can hear the coqui frogs. They make this really interesting sound, and apparently they're only here in Puerto Rico. I had no idea. So it's very cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of the island and having a little time off. So hey, I really appreciate it, man. It's a really pleasure to talk to you.
I think the coqui frogs, that's something that tourists can appreciate and locals can say, like, those are annoying.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, John. Congratulations on all this, and look forward to talking to you next time.
Thanks, Gabe. Take care, man.
Okay, bye.
Coloring Crypto.